Hi, I'm Bob Claflin. We're here in Brookline today at the Museum of Transportation. What are we going to do today, Ron?
Well, today we're going to go inside and we're going to see some very unique vehicles and memorabilia. This is a 1906 CGV Berlin de Voyage. It's a four-cylinder T-head and has 90 horsepower. And what do you see very unique about this vehicle, Bob?
Well, hopefully the camera's picking it up, but we have a toilet on board. And the toilet has many interesting parts to it. Ron, show them how this toilet works, if you will.
Of course, on top here, you can't actually see it, there's a flush tank. Right here is a leather tube which comes down, and this distributes the water to the toilet, and of course it distributes right out onto the street. And this is one of the very unique features that you don't find in vehicles, and they had this back in 1906.
Okay, I just wanted to point out a few things, Ron, that are pretty interesting. The headlights on this, of course, operated on gas. Also the side lights. It has a bulb horn here. The horn works by squeezing the bulb. The bulb happens to be missing here. As early as this car was, it has a speedometer on it. And also, important for the driver to speak to the passengers in the back, there's a horn up here so he can speak to them, or the passengers in the back can talk to the driver. And, of course, the toolbox on every car had a toolbox on the running board, so it's really quite a car for its day. It's an early car. Ron, what do we have here?
We have a 1905 Electromobile. That means an electric car of its day.
Mm-hmm.
And,
electric car, but the one thing we should look at here, Ron, if you can just step back a little bit and let me get out of the way, I want to show the curved glass in the bodies. These bodies were built by carriage makers, of course, early in this time. Also, the car that we looked at earlier had gas lights. This one, Ron, has
electric lights, of course.
Right. The windshield on it, for the driver's protection, was straight glass, a lot of glare, but it was this car is quite different because we've seen many other cars, electric, and
Definitely.
Baker Electric, Detroit Electric, etc., but I've never seen one like this. How about you, Ron? Have you seen this?
Not exactly, no. If you notice on the inside here, it has the volt and ampere meter right here on the floor. And another unique feature is it had actually leather fenders.
Right.
Stretched around a stretched metal frame. That's another unique feature of this particular automobile.
Yeah, so this is the first one I've seen like this one, and it showed a lot of brass on the car, was period. And the other thing on this is a right-hand drive, which a lot of these early cars, most of the early cars that had a steering wheel were a right-hand drive, and not until about 1912 that they switch them over to left-hand drive here.
This is an aerial view of the Museum of Transportation. It is one of the finest non-profit estate museums in New England. They're located at the Lars Anderson Park in historic Brookline, just minutes from downtown Boston. This is a 64-acre park boasting one of the most magnificent views of Boston in the area, as well as a playground, picnic tables, and gazebo, and ponds. As you can see here, there's some quite magnificent memorabilia. The grounds that now comprise Lars Anderson Park were once the estate of Lars and Isabel Anderson, two great car enthusiasts. Isabel Weld Perkins was born in Marlborough Street in Boston in 1876. At the age of 5, Isabel inherited $17 million from her grandfather, William Fletcher Weld, who made his fortune through the Black Horse flag lines, one of the world's greatest clipper ship fleets. Shortly after graduating from Miss Windsor's school in Boston, Isabel embarked on her life as an American debutante with a trip to Europe. At a social gathering in Rome in 1896, Isabel Perkins met Captain Lars Anderson. Lars Anderson was the son of Civil War hero Nicholas Longworth Anderson. Lars was born in Paris in 1866 and was raised in Ohio before traveling east to study at Phillips Exeter Academy and Harvard University. Lars was still in his first year at Harvard Law School when he was called to diplomatic service in 1892. After meeting in Rome, Isabel and Lars enjoyed a whirlwind courtship before being married at the Arlington Street Church in Boston on June 10, 1897. Together, Lars and Isabel shared a life of tremendous luxury combined with remarkable productivity and adventure. The Andersons traveled widely and had a great interest in collecting cars. Their first collection started in 1899 with the purchase of an 1899 single-cylinder 4-horsepower Winton. The Museum of Transportation is housed in the Andersons' 1888 carriage house, and it was designed by Edmund Wheelwright after the Chateau de Chaumont in France. Edmund Wheelwright's eye for detail and design remains impressive to museum visitors who enjoy seeing such unique features as a rotating shower for the horses and carriages.
Okay, Ron, what do we have here? I know it's an early car, and it's quite different again.
It's a 1901 Winton, and of course it's from the brass era. It has a monocle light, which is a single light positioned in the front. As you can see, it's a brass era car. It had pleated leather seats, and you can see this period hat positioned here also. This particular automobile here was unusual because you would enter from the rear of the automobile.
Opposite direction than we think of most cars that are open. So the passengers face to the rear of the car.
This is a two-cylinder, horizontally opposed, 40 horsepower, mounted centrally under the floor, intake valve actuated by compressed air. It had 2 speeds mounted under the floor alongside the engine. And of course it was chain-driven, and the brakes were only in the rear. It also has spoked wheels, as you can see, with a brass hub. And a very unique feature about it also is that it had leather mud guards attached to the metal fenders. And of course, resembling the early wagons, it had a metal step-up plate similar to those early wagons.
We're looking at Walter Anderson's Studebaker engine. It's a little unique, and a lot of engines were really like this later on, but we're going to point out some interesting points on this engine. First of all, Walter, what year is the car?
1922.
1922, light 6.
6-cylinder, around 38 horsepower.
Around 38.
And how it's rated.
Is it a 5-passenger touring? Was it known?
Yeah, actually, 5-passenger touring. 4-door sedan, they call it.
Where was Studebaker manufactured?
Well, some in Canada, mostly in South Bend, Indiana.
South Bend. And Studebaker was made from when to when?
From about 1913 right up until the 60s, middle 60s.
Okay.
The last one's an Avanti, of course.
Yeah. That was Canada, right? Finally. Okay, can you point out to the engine?
Well, this auxiliary shaft drives the fan belt,
Fan belt,
the water pump,
water pump,
the distributor, the oil pump, and the generator.
Boy.
And all in one shaft, and it's really foolproof. These are fiber discs that are more flexible so that stuff don't break very easily.
Right. It's like a universal.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And this one belt drives everything.
Yes. Okay.
Wow. Pretty good. Okay, then. Let's start it up and see how it works. Here we have an early model gas pump manufactured in Springfield, Mass. It's a Gilbert and Baker manufacturing. This was used up to probably around the 30s. Further out in the country they were used even later. Now we found another interesting item to show you. A bicycle. High wheeler, large wheel in the front, small wheel in the back. Walter, what year is this bike?
It's approximately 1880, manufactured by Columbia Bike, who was the owner was Colonel Pope, who went on to make the Pope Hartford, Pope Toledo automobile.
Wow. So it went from bicycles
Yes.
to automobiles. Just
Called
like,
high wheeler.
and Durant went from buggies to automobiles, huh? Boy. Have you ridden this?
Well, a few times.
Yeah. I see it's in prime, so you must be working on it.
Yeah, we'll be ready to ride it this summer again.
Mm-hmm. And these handlebars look pretty unique.
These are brand new, had them made in New Jersey
Uh-huh.
by a fellow that owned Stanley Stevens, and also bicycles.
Mm-hmm. The seat doesn't look too comfortable.
Well, it
Served its purpose. Yeah, really. Well, good enough. Well, thanks for showing it. We're looking forward to seeing you riding it this summer.
Hi, I'm Ron DePadua, and pictured here with me is a 1931 Model A Ford Roadster. And what you're seeing here is part of a period costume they plan on putting together, a display piece for parades and dress-up affairs. And this is a reproduction of a 1927 Thompson submachine gun. And of course, they no longer make full automatics. They haven't been available since the 1930s, but I hope this to be a valuable piece for my costume for the future. Hi, I'd also like to show you the rumble seat on a car and how you get into a rumble seat. Basically, there's these little step-up plates right here, as you can see. Climb up here and here, and then you got to kind of meander your way in a little bit to the very bottom here with your feet. But once you're in, you're ready for a nice, comfortable, and fun ride. Also with me today, I have a set of musical horns. And this is electronically powered off the car. We mount it underneath in the engine compartment. And you have various buttons that you press, and you actually play your own tune with it. It's a piece of nostalgia, and a lot of people like them for parades and display purposes.
We're here at the home of Warren Higgins, here in Shrewsbury. We're in his garage, where Warren has a lot of memorabilia. I'm going to attempt today to show some of the memorabilia. Behind us is a car Warren drives on a regular basis. And Warren Higgins, can you tell us, Warren, what are we standing in front of here?
This is a 1930 Packard. It's a model 740, and the 7 is a series number. The 40 stands for the wheelbase, 140. And I consider this my favorite car for tours. It's been on several Glidden tours.
Mr. Higgins, I understand that this car has been in a movie.
That's true. It was in The Great Gatsby. The only distinctive part of owning a Packard is that there's quite an honor in being arrested in an old Packard, and that's happened to me too. For speeding. I was passing a 1911 Lambert car at the time, and the gentleman who owned it was a member of the family who made the car. When the officers stopped us, they questioned us, and Mr. Lambert said, well, Mr. Higgins is not at fault because I waved for him to pass me. And the New York State Trooper said, well, what would you two guys do? Run over a cliff together just because somebody waved? So we've had an awful lot of good times in this car.
Mr. Higgins has another car here we're looking at, and he's going to tell us about it.
This is a 1931 Model A Deluxe Roadster. It's as similar to a car that I had, the very same model, when I was a kid. It's been on quite a few tours, including the Glidden tours. I can say that there are a lot of memories connected with the rumble seat of this car. 4-cylinder, very reliable, and one of Henry's greatest.
Very good. How long you owned it, Warren?
I've had this car now, I would say, for about 40 years.
Yes. In the early days, portable toilets facilities weren't available everywhere, so a lot of people used to carry their own. Now, Warren has something here he's going to show us. He's not going to demonstrate, but he's going to show us. What do you got here, Warren?
Well, this is known as an Auto John. It is portable, and you remove this. This is the business end.
Uh-huh.
I would demonstrate it, but that becomes a little embarrassing to some people. Instructions are on here, and of course, after using it, you have to be careful where you empty it due to the environmental laws.
Oh, I see. That has changed through the years. You got to be careful on that.
What kind of car do you have here, Warren?
This is a 1911 Pratt Elkhart made out in Elkhart, Indiana, a 4-cylinder. It's been on several Glidden tours, and it's very reliable. Possibly maximum speed of 50 miles per hour.
I notice it's a right-hand drive.
Right. Henry Ford discovered that you had to let your passengers out, and he switched the steering wheel to the other side. But Henry did that on his Model T, going into the conversion to the Model A.
So how rare of a car is this, actually?
Well, I don't know of myself of too many around, although for some reason or other, most of the old cars that I have, there are a larger quantity of them on the West Coast than here in New England, where many of them were made.
I would think perhaps maybe the weather, too, would be a factor in that.
Yes, I think that's very true.
We're in another barn of Warren's, and this is, I believe, the oldest car, right, Warren?
Yes, this is a 1902 Pope Hartford, made in Hartford, Connecticut. Pope made several cars, and he always gave them a name like Pope Tribune and so forth. They're more popular today on the West Coast, even though the car was made in Hartford, Connecticut.
What year is this, Warren?
1902.
And it's a 1-cylinder?
That's right.
1-cylinder. Has a mag in it.
Right.
And, boy, it's quite a rig. How fast it'll go?
Oh, I think about 30, 35 at the most.
I think I'd want a seatbelt at 35 miles an hour.
You'd need it.
Henry Ford, what have you done? You've got the whole nation talking. Henry Ford, you sure make 'em run. Soon there'll be nobody walking. With your new car, you're in clover. But think of the one you've thrown over. Poor Lizzie, what'll become of you now that your sister is here? Poor Lizzie, though we made fun of you, we're mighty sorry, oh dear. Right now your big sister's the talk of the town. Why, you were a good wagon until you broke down. Oh, poor Lizzie, since Henry's done with you, what'll become of you now? 1,000 Thousands here and thousands there all stood in line, anxious to see the new sporter. Millions wait, millions state the new one is fine, but Lizzie ain't worth a quarter. Though the new car is a treasure, what car made walking a pleasure? Poor Lizzie, what'll become of you now that you're old and passe? Poor Lizzie, they're making fun of you. Now we can't give you away. There'll be no more service for you, old sweetheart, so we'll go to Woolworths for each extra part. Oh, poor Lizzie, everyone's shunning you. What'll become of you now? Poor Lizzie, what'll become of you? What Henry did is a crime. Poor Lizzie, though we make fun of you, we had a rattling good time. Now we'll take 2 flippers, just make sure they're mates. Tie one to each shoe and just use them for skates. Oh, poor Lizzie, yes, every one of you, what'll become of you now? Jones and a pretty little queen took a ride one day in his big limousine. The car kicked up and the engine wouldn't crank. There wasn't any gas in the gasoline tank. Just about that time along came Nord, and he rambled right along in his little old Ford. He stole that queen as his engine sang a song, and his little old Ford just rambled right along. His little old Ford, it rambled right along. The little old Ford, it rambled right along. The gas burned out in the big machine, but the darn little Ford don't need gasoline. The big limousine has to back downhill. The blamed little Ford is going up still. When she blows out a tire, just wrap it up with wire, and the little Ford will ramble right along. Now they ran over glass and they ran over nails. They ran over pigs and puppy dogs' tails. They spotted a cop and shot out of sight. They rambled all day and they rambled all night. They smashed up fences and telegraph poles. They bumped into ditches and deep shut holes. They bumped into a preacher and the preacher took a ride. And the Ford rambled on with Johnny and his bride. The little old Ford, it rambled right along. The little old Ford, it rambled right along. He swung around the corner and he bumped into a mule. And the darned old jackass kicked like a fool. He kicked and he kicked and he kicked the wheel. But he had to quit kicking to save his heels. When it runs out of dope, just fill it up with soap, and the little Ford will ramble right along. You can smash the top and smash up the seat, twist it out of shape till both ends meet, smash the body and rip out the gear, smash up the front and smash up the rear, smash up the fender and rip off the tires, smash up the lamps and cut out the wires, throw in the clutch and then forget the juice, and the little old Ford will go to beat the juice. The little old Ford, it rambled right along. The little old Ford rambled right along. Now cut that out, you naughty tease. Here's a left-hand drive and a right-hand squeeze. Patch it up with a piece of string, spearmint gum or any old thing. When the flour gets thick, just hit it with a brick, and the little Ford will ramble right along.
Hey, get that tin can out of there, will you? What do you mean, tin can? Well, that's what it is. You heard me. Is that so? Yes, that's so. Well, when you hear this? Well, let's hear it. I've got some information that will open up your eyes. I'm sure that when you hear it, it will take you by surprise. Ford has made a lady out of Lizzie. It's hard to realize it, but it's true. I hope that she behaves a whole lot better than the Lizzie that so many people knew. It always was a rattling good car. It shook you up for there. They say it still is rattling good, but the rattle's gone somewhere. So many things go with his car, you get your money's worth. They've thrown in everything, I guess, except the Furman berth. So the whole Ford has made a lady out of Lizzie. It's hard to realize it, but it's true. I hope that she behaves a whole lot better than the Lizzie that so many people knew. Gas House Jake got into one. He rode with two-gun Pat. When they got out, they washed their necks and down the high silk hat. Oh, Ford has made a lady out of Lizzie. It's hard to realize it, but it's true. I hope that she behaves a whole lot better than the Lizzie that so many people knew. She used to shake the shimmy as she traveled down the street. Gilda Gray wouldn't ride in one, 'cause she had to take a back seat. Oh, Ford has made a lady out of Lizzie. It's hard to realize it, but it's true. I hope that she behaves a whole lot better than the Lizzie that so many people knew. They let you pay so much a month, they're generous, you see. You pay 2 years and wait a year for your delivery. Even old John D. is saving dimes for a sedan. He's going to try to buy one on the new installment plan. Oh, Ford has made a lady out of Lizzie. It's hard to realize it, but it's true. I hope that she behaves a whole lot better than the Lizzie that so many people knew. Overland and Chevrolet are worried as can be. They're working overtime, 'tis said, to bring Ford misery. They sent detectives to his home. They hid behind a chair, threw gasoline in his coffee cup and dandruff in his hair. No longer can you call this lady Lizzie, not the old tin can that we once knew. For now, Miss Elizabeth Van Sliver, and she lives way up on Lincoln Avenue.